Exhibit 8. On Exhibit 8, the 15-year bond at 6%, in order to come up with $5 million, we would have to pay back $7,596,000. On a 20-year bond, we would pay back $9,156,000. On a 30-year bond, $10,008,000, which is obviously double. And on a BAN, which at the present time is about 1.5%, so I did a calculation as if it was 2, 3, or 4%. Remembering short-term BANs are always cheaper. We would pay back about $5,470,000, which basically means our interest over 7 years would be about $500,000, a lot cheaper than the rest. But of course, you're paying more up front every quarter. On Exhibit 9, if we decided to go with a 15-year serial bond, it would be $145 a year, $131, $103, and then the BAN option would be $223.
Okay, just so I'm clear, none of this addresses the $500,000 that the sewer fund owes the general fund.
That is correct. However, there's an earlier exhibit, which I'll go over to you now to answer your question in a minute, which will show you what I can do with that. And on the $5 million, if we did a tax on the...
What exhibit do you want right now?
10. On the $5 million for taxes, that means on the homes, it'd be $1.40, $1.27, $99, $2.16 if we went to the BAN over 7 years. What you don't have in front of you is what if we did the land tax? And that land tax would basically be very similar to the assessment, and I will create that and get that over to you guys. Now, to answer your last question, that it does not include the payback to the general fund. If you go to Exhibit 6, on Exhibit 6, this is on operations now. It has nothing to do with paying principal and interest on the sewer debt. We estimate our revenues to be $1.5 million. That includes some money from the town. We propose to reduce the operation cost that we're billing out for sewer by $300,000, which means all we would need is $1.2 million in order to operate the sewer, the repairs, the maintenance, the people, etc.
How are you proposing to reduce the operation cost?
Because part of the operation money right now is being used to pay the bonds. So if we shift the assessment or the land tax or the other taxes to some sort of real estate, we would then just have operations, and we can concentrate on the cost of that. Our estimated disbursements right now are about $1.1 million. Now that's again for operations only. It doesn't have to do with principal and interest. So therefore, we would have about $97,000 to pay back the general fund over 5 years, and that will give us a total of $1.2 million. Now, as long as we're going through this, we might as well go to Exhibit 1.
Hang on.
Exhibit 1 indicates our present assessments. We're basically bringing in, with our sewer assessments, about $980,000. Our annual cost for the first bond, the 2006 bond, is about $6.25 a year on the average. And the annual cost of the 2007 bond is about $840 a year on the average. You add those up, we have $1,465,000 is what we're paying on the average for the two present bonds. Now, this doesn't count any BANs or anything else we have, just the long-term bond. Our present assessments are 8,982, obviously, we're short 482. So that 482 is coming out of operations, there hasn't been enough money, so it's coming out of the general fund as a loan, or part of it is. I estimate that we would use 60,000, that's simply an allocation based on the money that comes in from the town towards the bonds, and we would have an actual shortage of 422. Okay, Exhibit 2 shows that we have an active sewer units of about 3,500. So the annual increase in order to get the 422 from operation to the bonds would be approximately $120 a year annually. $30 a quarter, which would then make the quarterly sewer assessment from 70 to 100. Now, if we were to do that, irrespective of anything else, we would now move the sewer assessments equal to the principal and interest on the two major bonds. For operations, on Exhibit 3, our total disbursements were $2,005,000. We paid the debt of $1,470,000, and therefore, to operate the sewer plant and all of its expenses was $1,001,000. The revenues on Exhibit 4 were $2,003,000.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, anytime.
You go back to Exhibit 3.
Yes.
Total disbursements for long-term debt and disbursements excluding the long-term debt.
Right.
And then underneath it's the one subtracted from the other. What am I supposed to learn from this?
Basically, that it costs us our total sewer bill, including the fees, bring in a certain amount of money, but our payouts are approximately $2,600,000.
Right.
The payout for the debt is about $1,470,000. So our operation, all the stuff that goes into it, the utilities, chemicals, people, is $1,001,000. Now, keeping that in mind, if we look at Exhibit 4, we have our revenues, which are short, $2,005,000 versus $2,003,000. Our assessments are $997,000. Our town fees are $180,000, net of the $60,000, because I used the $60,000 for bond. So we have approximately $1,500,000 in revenue if we take away the payment of the bonds. So it's $2,003,000 minus the assessment plus the town fees. So we now have, what's happening now is we are using excess revenue on operations to pay down the bonds. Exhibit 5 indicates a summary of this: $1,500,000 for revenue, $1,001,000 for expenditures, excess of about $400,000, and then D&E are simply information. We owe the general fund $483,000 plus some sort of interest, and right now the town owes us $185,000. At least we think it.
That doesn't include late fees?
That does not include
No,
late.
that's just straight.
Thank you.
That's straight tax. And then that brings us back to Exhibit 6, which we mentioned. If you have $1,500,000 in revenue, we don't need $300,000 of it, so we only need $1,200,000 in revenue. Our expenses are about $1,001,000, so we can take about $97,000 to $100,000 and pay back the general fund each year. So, with all this information, obviously there may be questions, but to go back to the $5 million bond, we have basically 4 options. Obviously there could be more: 15, 20, 30, or BAN. We have 3 ways of paying for it: an assessment by increasing the fees. Number two, placing it on the regular taxes. Or number three, placing it on the land tax. Now, you don't have that exhibit because I have a couple of legal questions that I don't have resolved yet. However,